Myron, is there anything in your collection that is objectively terrible to drive?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Tonight on That Car Show, it's our pal Myron Vernis. There are car collections, and then there are car collections. And if you are into the rare, the unusual, the eclectic, and the sublime, you're going to want to keep listening. Because chances are Myron's owned it. He's a great storyteller too, and his knowledge runs deep. This is a good one with a guy who's got the coolest stuff and coolest friends in the car world. It's Myron Vernis, author, collector, and one hell of a nice guy. And it's That Car Show. Myron Vernis is one of the world's great car collectors, but the cars in his collection aren't just your typical Ferraris and Porsches. They're even more incredible. He's got unobtainium like a Mazda Cosmo, a Toyota 2000 GT, a Ghia 450 SS, and an Autech Zagato Stelvio AZ1, and it just gets more rare and interesting from there. He shares his cars, too, as a frequent exhibitor and occasional judge at events like Pebble Beach, Amelia Island, and Radwood, and I love that we can now say those three names in the same sentence. He's also the co-author of, along with Mark Brinker, the book A Quiet Greatness, Japan's Most Astonishing Automobiles. And of course, being Myron, it's actually much more than a book. It's probably the definitive work, and it's actually 4 books plus a supplement. So, and we've wanted to have Myron on That Car Show for a long time because we know this conversation is going to be wonderful. Myron, my friend, we're so glad to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure. Just one slight correction. I don't have a Toyota 2000 GT. I've got
you don't?
Sports 8.
Okay.
I have a Sports 800, which is the predecessor, and I've got about 10 other Toyotas, but no 2000 GT. I went to Pebble Beach once with Mark, actually, before we wrote the book, with the intention of buying a 2000 GT, and neither one of us fit. So
Really?
ended up saving a lot of money that weekend.
Well, there is a website out there that says Myron Vernis's 15 most unusual cars, and that's in the list. So I'll have to send you the link later. But I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one who can't fit into some of these things, and I suppose that factors into your greater collection as well. But so Myron, I imagine that a man who appreciates the interesting cars that you do has an equally interesting origin story of your own.
I don't know. It's an immigrant story. We lived in Greece till I was 5 years old, and I grew up in a family that didn't like cars, or it maybe thought that they were like the worst of the necessary evils. But we moved back to Akron when I was 5 years old, and Akron was kind of a blessing for a budding car enthusiast. My mom said when we lived in Greece, we lived in an apartment. I used to sit on the balcony and just watch the cars go by all day long. So I was an easy kid to babysit. But when we got here, Akron was the rubber capital, right? We supplied all the tires for Detroit. So the car enthusiasm was a very high level. Actually, up until about 1970 or the early 70s, the Akron-Cleveland area had more cars per capita than any place in the world. And then, the Rust Belt kicked in, and things kind of went south. But it was a great place to grow up for a budding car enthusiast.
Yeah, I bet. I'll tell you a funny story real quick. As a kid, we never had cable. And so my little sister and I grew up watching, as sort of a goof, there was a televangelist from Akron named Ernest Angley.
Oh, Ernest
I don't know if
Angley.
he's still alive or not, but he was one of these guys that would smack you on the forehead. And that was our association with Akron, Ohio for years and years and years.
Yeah.
I know there's more to Akron than Ernest. So
his church is still around. It's about 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Akron. That's another thing that Akron was on the map for. Between Rex Humbard and Ernest Angley, the televangelists, man, we were the capital.
You're killing it. Yeah. So your collection, is there a singular word you use for the kind of cars that you own? Because I think the word offbeat does it a disservice.
Yeah, I don't think they're all I don't think they're offbeat, but they're different. It's, eclectic gets used a whole heck of a lot these days. I'd say if you look at the real definition, I think my cars are more eclectic because I just collect what I like, and I try to drive everything that I have, and that's kind of the most fun, right? You can be promiscuous with cars, but they can't be with your wife, right? Kim and I have been married 43 years, and but I can have all kinds of variety with my cars, and that's kind of where the real root of my collection is.
Well, we're all aligned on that as far as like we all think that they should be driven. And
Yeah.
and I like the approach of like variety with the cars, solidarity with the wife.
That's right.
How many cars do you have these days? Last I read it was about 75.
Yeah, I promised Kim that we'd get down to about 55 by the end of this year. So right now we're in the mid 60s somewhere. 55, I think, is a good manageable number, as you get older.
Yeah, yeah.
For people that don't have multiple cars or have a smaller number of multiple cars, how do you manage even 55 cars? Because that is still it's a great number.
Yeah, it's not easy. I've been blessed to have a good friend in my shop who kind of takes care of everything there. He's kind of a mechanical genius. Grew up with flathead Fords and small block Chevys, but loves the challenge of a Citroen or even more unique things like that. So that's the easy way to do it. Living where I live in Akron, real estate values are really cheap, so it's easier to have a big building to kind of keep your stuff in. Just kind of one of the few benefits of living in Northeast Ohio.
Where do you find these cars? And I guess more importantly, how do you even know that they exist? Because you've got some exceedingly obscure stuff.
Yeah, for a long time it was me pursuing cars, kind of chasing things. Now the stuff kind of falls in my lap. I mean, I've got a Honda Coupe 9, Honda 1300 Coupe 9 coming in the next couple days. And that one actually came to me. It's because I had a couple others and they were gone. So, and that's a pretty obscure car. It's the last model that Dr. Honda actually engineered for the company. It's air-cooled car they made. It's a pretty cool little car. So a lot of that stuff comes to me now. Basically, I'm the only person kind of goofy enough to buy some of this stuff. You find a lot of stuff that ends up on these websites and on the internet, like on Jalopnik and things like that, and people kind of go crazy on them, but nobody really wants to step up and buy them. So, I'm kind of like the last resort a lot of times, I think, for these people.
You're the guy. Well, I like that. Some people are rescuing cats and dogs, and you're rescuing cars.
Yeah, right.
Is there anything you have that might surprise us?
I think, no, there really shouldn't be. I have a 12-cylinder Toyota Century, which is kind of a sedate kind of sedan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's kind of boring and mundane. So maybe that might.
No, that's so cool. There's a guy on YouTube out of LA who goes by the name of F-Spot, and he has one that he has straight piped. And it sounds pretty impressive. So,
sounds like an amazing one-car solution.
Yeah. It's I don't know. To me, I love the stock. The great thing about the Century is what went into it in engineering and construction standpoint. I don't think that's a car unless you have like a real wreck of a thing that you want to build something. I think that stock is the highest and best solution for a Century.
Yeah. For those who don't know, the Toyota Century is a pretty cool car. It's a car that was at least not sold in the U.S. in the same guise, right? So what is the Century? I know it was in the news recently because they announced is an SUV version, which I guess I want to know your thoughts on too. But how does that fit in with the JDM market in Japan?
Well, it's the Japanese Rolls Royce. I mean, to put it bluntly, great car. You had to apply to buy that car. It's a handmade car. Even to work in the Century plant, if you had to be like a 10-year veteran of Toyota and go through another 6-month retraining process. So it's just the engineering and the quality that went into that car was unbelievable. Still the only production V12 Japanese car ever made, and really kind of reserved for diplomats and people in high levels of government in Japan. The fact that they're making it as an SUV right now, I think is terrific. I've got a car called a Toyota Harrier Zagato, which was sold as the Lexus RX 300 in this country, sold as a Toyota Harrier in Japan. So really regarded as the first crossover. And when they started selling them in Japan, they had Zagato do 250 special editions. So we did one of those. So I'm all about crossovers and SUVs.
So do those cars have the Zagato signatures, like the bubbles on the roof and?
No, the roof, no, but it's got all kinds of body stuff all around it, special wheels. It's got the Zagato logo on them. So it's, and there's not a Toyota logo anywhere on the car, but the roof panel is a straight Toyota Harrier. My Autex Zagato that Ryan mentioned earlier, that's a body that was fully done by Zagato on a Nissan Leopard chassis, and that has a stylized double bubble.
So what is it like to drive a Century? Because you've said you drive all your cars. What's it like for you to drive? And when you drive it around, do you feel like people know how special it is?
You know, I love driving it because you feel really special. It's like super smooth and super quiet, unlike most of my cars. My wife loves sitting in the back seat. That one of the cool things about the Century is on the passenger side, there's a pass through so that the rear passenger side passenger can put their feet through and kind of stretch out. We close the lace curtains.
Right.
You know, they have their own HVAC system back there. They've got their own stereo system. They have 2 telephones. So, you know, I get the great pleasure is driving people around in that car. I said, you know, I'd love to be like an Uber driver if I could pick to make sure that there were like no jerks that ever got in the car.
Right.
I wouldn't even have to get paid. I would just, you know, have nice people back.
Right.
So we talk a lot on this show about what luxury means, right? And the Crown was a car that really, I think, was the epitome of luxury, at least in Japan, for many decades, right? And yet you look at a newer one and it looks a hell of a lot like an older one, right? At least to the eye, they didn't change too much. How did that car change throughout the years?
Yeah, the Century, because the Crown was kind of a cut below. The Century, basically the same car for 50 years. Introduced in 67, first 30 years was very much unchanged. Then in 1997, it went from a V8 to a V12. That's when they did more integrated bumpers, but still basically the same structure and just an update. So really the same car in 2 series for 50 years. Then they took a couple years off and they reintroduced it as basically the SUV. And now they're talking out, for what I've heard, about spinning it off as their own division, kind of like a Bentley or a Rolls-Royce.
Really? Yeah. We did talk about that, didn't we, guys? Yeah.
Yeah,
heard that
like a superior brand to the Lexus, right? It's one up from the Lexus.
Right.
That's right. We did. Well, and we're seeing manufacturers do that more and more, like luxury or not, like they did with Ram, like they did with Genesis. So it'll be interesting to see that one.
So rare is I guess, a common theme in your collection. Rare probably doesn't always equal valuable. Sometimes it does, right?
Poster child for that statement.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess, is there a correlation for you between rarity and the enjoyment you get out of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think rarity kind of ties into it, only because a lot of times the spec or it was like a lost, a dead end road for some kind of technology that didn't work out. So the story was really good. So maybe not buying it for the rarity, but the rarity being a result of, you know, what interested me.
I'm curious, when you call up your insurance agent and you bought a new car, like how much time do you have to explain exactly what that car is to them?
So when we moved back to Akron 30 some years ago, I had maybe a dozen cars. It wasn't a heck of a lot. So called back my old agent, put the house on, the everyday cars. And he said, yeah, I can do collector cars. And then as the collection started to grow, and I was calling him on a fairly regular basis to add or subtract every once in a while, he finally said, you know, there's this thing called collector car insurance, and, you know, I'm happy to give up this portion of the stuff. So, you know, listen, there are really good collector car services out there. You know, Haggerty's is the 800-pound gorilla. Sure. I'm with Chubb, which I think is fantastic. You know, there are 3 or 4 others that, you know, they're used to, you know, people like me and collectors, right? It's collector car insurance is like the easiest thing in the world and the greatest thing in the world. It's a relative bargain compared to the other stuff. And I think the people that are in that are agents, kind of understand the hobbyists, at least the successful ones. So yeah, it's an easy thing for me. And you know, my agent with Chubb is terrific. She never questions me. I've only had one claim, and it was in a car that I only had for like 2 weeks. I totaled it. I totaled it 2 weeks after I bought it. I didn't even put it on the policy. You know, you get like a 30-day grace period. And
Right.
and I totaled it. I put it in a ditch, and they gave me. I said, "Here's what I was going to insure it for," and it was no questions asked. It happened. Actually, we rebuilt the car. I bought it back out of Copart and bought a body shell, and we rebuilt it, and they have it insured again.
Wow. Well, shout out to our new sponsors, Chubb Insurance.
Right.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah,
can't write a better commercial, right? Or at
Right,
least a endorsement.
Well, insurance payouts are one thing, but how do you find parts for some of these cars? Because we've listed a few of your cars, but you've got. Can you share some of the other cars? I guess too. I mean, this is some obscure stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of obscure stuff. And, you know, again, thankfully, I have my friend who is a great fabricator. Again, one of the few benefits of living in Akron, Ohio, there are a lot of machine shops, a lot of support industries for automotive parts and support of the rubber factories and stuff. So there's a lot of that talent still here to do these things. Plus, I've been in the hobby long enough now that you have connections all around. And the world, with the internet, the world has really shrunk. You know, before I used to be able to get parts all around the United States. Now I get them internationally. Not an issue. Like the Century has air suspension. And one of the airbags went down. I figured, what the heck, might as well replace them all while we're at it. I found a source. Toyota still supports them, but the prices are like super, super crazy expensive. But I found a source in the UAE that supplies them at a fraction of that, and I get them DHL 3 days. So that's, you know, parts are, if you're going to put yourself out there, parts are not that tough. You just can't be afraid.
Yeah, interesting.
That's true.
Yeah. Interesting.
What a time to be alive, right?
Yeah.
So what are some other cars you've got? Like what do we not know about?
That's a good question.
Yeah, do you have to consult? Do you have a list on the?
Yeah,
It's like, I can tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
You know, our youngest daughter is a lawyer, and she has the spreadsheet. She's the one who knows, you know, where everything is. You know, I was very much early on into Porsche 356s. I know you guys have talked about some 356s on the things.
Sure.
In fact, I have the first 356 I bought. I still have after 51 years.
Wow.
It was
And which one is that, Myron?
63 B Coupe, nothing car. You know, I should have kept the Carrera Speedsters and you know the Carrera Coupes and stuff, but I kept the Bondo laden 63 Coupe. But
I love it.
it was $1,500 with a new paint job and a rebuilt engine. Oh wow! Which was a bargain, except for the fact I only had $900 to my name. But I've owned over 100 356s.
Have you really?
Yeah. But they were really cheap back then.
Sure.
Right.
I've owned over 30 Porsche tractors too. I was importing them before
Really?
they got to be a thing. Remember the Porsche tractor race that happened at
Rensport, right?
Rensport?
Yeah.
First and second place were sourced by me. So
Oh, wow.
That's
Fantastic.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So I was in 356s a lot. Really wasn't into American stuff, but lately in the last 6 or 7 years, I've really gotten into American customs. Basically California customs from the 50s for the most part.
Yeah.
I've gotten a half dozen of those. I bought my first Corvette 6 years ago, and I didn't even buy it. I traded, and most of my friends were shocked by this. I traded my Alfa Montreal for a 1958 Corvette that was customized by George Barris.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Yeah.
if you're going
That's
to
a pretty
trade your
good
Montreal
trade.
for something, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah, you know, I traded a car that I didn't like to drive, but I love to look at, to a car that I don't necessarily like to drive either, but I love to look at.
Yeah.
But so customs are a big thing for me now.
Can we come back to that Alpha Montreal for a minute? Because
Yeah.
this is one of those cars, I've heard that refrain from others too. They're just beautiful, but they're very complicated. They're not great to drive. And that was your experience as well, huh?
Yeah. I lusted for one for a long time. It took me a long time to source it. I found one in Greece.
Yeah.
It was a two-owner car. It had been shown a lot. It had been done rallies, but not, not competitive rallies, like touring rallies. So it was like best. It was a car that was driven, loved, and maintained. And it got here and it was better than represented. I was so happy to get it.
Really?
And, that's one of those things that it's so beautiful to look at. I think it's Gandini's second greatest design. It's comfortable. The steering wheel is just sensual, just holding it. It's got the best transmission of any car I've ever driven. But the package I can't explain it. I just didn't love the driving experience. And I ended up keeping it 8 years because I loved looking at it for so much. And I kept trying to drive it and do it, and it just didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the $1 million question then. What was Gandini's best design?
Yes.
The Miura, no doubt.
Yeah.
That's fair.
There you go.
Good answer.
That's the correct answer.
Yeah. Are there still Myron-worthy cars being produced, or are these all artifacts of an earlier time? You mentioned earlier that some of the cars you have are sort of technical dead ends or what have you. Are there newer cars that will someday find a place in your collection, or?
I'm kind of an automotive omnivore. I really, other than a Trabant, there isn't one car ever made that I probably wouldn't want to have. I think we're kind of in a golden era of cars right now. I don't shop for new cars. I've got maybe 3 cars with cup holders out of the 65. So I'm not into modern cars, but there's a lot of really, really great cars out there. I would love to have a Ford Maverick. I think a Maverick is like the coolest thing out there right now.
Yeah, they are neat. I just saw one today, and I thought, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
got everything you need, nothing you don't. Yeah.
The car I totaled was a Dodge Rampage, which was like an 80s version of a Maverick, a two-door kind of thing. And one of the last few cars I bought, I've got a Lincoln Blackwood, which I think is like
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like the American version of the Century. I just feel good driving it.
Well, and that was such an interesting concept on their part, and it just didn't find its footing. But so it's interesting to hear, that you have one and enjoy it.
Yeah, well, they were 2 or 3 years ahead of their time. People weren't spending that kind of money on luxury.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
I hope Lincoln gets back. I like Lincolns too. I've got 4 or 5 Lincolns. I mentioned my dad hated cars, but the only car he ever enjoyed, he bought a new 49 Lincoln Cosmopolitan Town Sedan, which was a 1 year only big bubble bathtub with a fastback. So he always talked about that. So I found one and I've got that, and it takes up a huge amount of space in my garage, but it's the only car I've ever bought for sentimental reasons.
How many of your cars come with membership to a car club of that manufacturer or model? Are you subscribed to many car clubs?
No. I used to be, and single mark car clubs almost ruined the whole hobby for me. Just wasn't, the people, I was in the 356s when it was a great community and you helped each other, and here you can use this Volkswagen part over here, so you don't have to pay 3 times as much for Porsche stuff, and you traded stuff and you gave each other parts if everybody else needed it. And then it got to about 6 or 7 years ago, I was chairing the 356 Registry Concord, the East Coast Holiday, and all these guys that I used to trade parts with and give stuff away with, all they wanted to talk about was how kids don't like cars anymore and how much their 356s were worth. And that was true of pretty much every other single mark car club. So I quit pretty much all my single mark clubs. And I only do events now that are just very open, kind of a wide variety kind of things. And
Sure.
It's very freeing, and it gives you a whole heck of a lot more pleasure, to do those things. Plus, I find most of my car friends now are half my age, which is, they have just as much enthusiasm now as I had when I was their age. It's just the kids, the young people, there's as much enthusiasm now as ever, right? It's just like growing up, our folks were into Model Ts and Model As. People in my generation were in the 50s and 60s, American Muscle. These kids today, it's just like my generation. They're into cars. They're just not into the cars that, we grew up with, which is totally logical. which is one of the
Right.
reasons we did the book on Japanese cars. We really felt important to legitimize that segment of the hobby.
Well, let's talk about that book, A Quiet Greatness. I was going to ask why Japanese cars, but I think you just answered that.
Right.
So tell us about this book, because it's this massive undertaking. I don't know where you would even start with something like this. I think it's got something like 2,200 photos. So what is the process there, and what was the timeline in completing it?
Well, we got into Japanese cars really because of the Peterson Museum. I was doing a rally in 2015 with a car that was sponsored by a Japanese nostalgia car. It was a Mazda R130. It did some time at the Peterson Museum, a Luce Coupe, only front-wheel drive rotary engine car that Mazda ever built. And there was the Japanese car cruising at the Peterson. And I went to it. And I was like double the age of the average person there. And it was just such a great grassroots crowd. And just the vibe was just so good. It was about the time I was getting disillusioned in the Porsche hobby and all that stuff. And I saw, man, these were my people 30 years ago. And I told my friend Mark about it. Mark is more into Italian coach-built sports cars from the 50s and 60s, but again, a real enthusiast. And that's when we started looking at cars. And, a lot of these early Japanese cars were, if not built by Italian designers, they were designed by the Italians, at least a lot of their hero cars. So that's what got us into researching it a little bit. And we talked about it for a few years that we really should do something about it. Mark had written a couple other books. And I retired, and he said, well, we should do it at this point. And we were going to do a coffee table book, about 300 pages, 250 to 300 pages. Just make it like your typical Ferrari, Porsche book, make it nice, shiny, glossy kind of thing. Then we started discovering cars. And, and it just kind of grew and grew as we found more and more cool cars. We kind of joke that, the Japanese were with their cars like the French with their wine. They kept the best stuff for themselves. And we just kept discovering cars, and that's how it grew into 1,400 pages and 2,200 images. And the most expensive part of that was we kept discovering cars that we decided we needed to buy. So as a result, but by the time we finished the book, between the two of us, we bought 18 cars that before we started the project. Before we started the project, we didn't even know these cars existed. So it was.
That's fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's the epitome of practice what you preach, and as far as being an ambassador for Japanese cars.
Yeah. Well, and it was a 6-year project from beginning to end.
Yeah.
We wanted a really high-end book. Again, we wanted a Ferrari quality book. We took it to all the high-end publishers. They said, this is amazing, but no one will ever spend a lot of money on a Japanese car book. So we decided to self-publish because we didn't want to cut any corners. And we took a big risk there. But happy to say that we sold out. It's sold out now, so it was great.
Wow!
Congratulations!
Yeah.
Thanks.
Will there be a second edition? Because I feel like JDM cars really are having a moment. You see these cruisings at the Peterson, young people into the Skylines and importing the 25-year stuff now. I mean, it's just I got to think there's another wave of customers for you.
Well, not for me. There's not. When we were promoting the book, a lot of people were asking the question, aren't you afraid that someone's going to go out there and copy you now and start doing this? I said, well, that's kind of our hope. We want other people. Yeah. We want to start the trend. Mark's actually finishing up a book now on the Pebble Beach road races for the 70th. It'll be released at Pebble Beach for the 75th anniversary. So he's doing that on his own. I'm proofreading it for him, but it's his book.
And I think we have, in the museum, we have the Monza that was the reason that the races stopped.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. It's on loan. It's not a property of the museum, but there was a significant crash, and that's when the races stopped at Pebble Beach.
People don't realize that the Concours, the car show, was basically a spin-off from the races. The races were there before the car show. It was just something else for people to do that weekend.
Yeah.
Well,
things have changed.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting when you look back. I mean, I feel like a lot of the significant races obviously also had a significant crash. I mean, you think about the crash at Le Mans that didn't stop the races entirely, but it impacted Mercedes' participation, stopped it for a long time. Yeah. Myron, I know that you've been a judge at Pebble and also Radwood, which I love the contrast there. And we haven't had the opportunity to be judges yet. So I wondered if you could share what the judging experience is like in general, and also those two events, because they could not be more, different from each other.
I've not judged at Pebble. I've shown at Pebble several times. I've judged at Amelia Island. I've judged at Amelia Island and all the other. And I used to have my own concours in Ohio called the Glenmore Gathering. You pick a low-income area to do a very high-end car event. It's not a good economic decision, but we had a heck of a lot of fun. We did it for 18 years.
That's the important part.
We've judged high-end concours events as well as Radwood. And, the Radwood's a heck of a lot more fun. Actually, Concours de Lemons is the most fun to judge because the bribes are fantastic. It really, you'll walk away with good booze and good food and a good time. So that's the best of all.
The bribe economy is alive and well at Lemons.
Absolutely. We live a good part of the year in Greece where the bribe economy is part of everyday life. So
it's old hat to you.
Yeah. So Concours de Lemons was an easy fit. It's just different criteria. French judging is really kind of the way to go, where you're just getting kind of a special car, and there's a bit of a quid pro quo. I don't care where you're judging, but that's all part of the character of the event. There's some people that do it and do it well, and more power to them.
Let's talk a little bit about your involvement with Radwood, because we had Art Cervantes on a while back, which was a fun conversation. And my introduction to Radwood was at Amelia a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And I don't know why this stuck with me so much, but I saw 3 Buick Riatas in a row, right? And there was a guy who was there with all the Buick, Riata, clothing.
Regalia.
Yeah, regalia. Yeah. It was, and it was just, between us 4, I think I enjoyed the Radwood part of Amelia more than I did the actual Concours. It was just so great. It was just because it's stuff that I could connect with in a way that I couldn't connect with a lot of the other stuff, and when you say, the kids, or when you don't say this, but when people say, the kids aren't into cars or just go to a Radwood event, it's got the most energy of anything out there these days, So
right.
Is this something?
I beg to differ.
Yeah. So you're pretty heavily involved. What do you bring to Radwood?
We've done all kinds of stuff. One of the founders of Radwood, one of Art's original partners, Brad Brownell, is a good friend of mine. We do Cars and Coffee every week together.
Oh, you do? That's cool.
Yeah. So, that's exactly why I love Radwood. Is my kids. So I have 2 girls in their mid-30s that grew up, in the car scene. But Radwood is their thing. Actually, in 2019, I bought my Autex Zagato at the Bonhams auction at Pebble Beach at the Quail. Had it shipped home. Kim and I went back to Greece, and my daughter called me. She said, "Dad, Radwood's coming up in Detroit. They're doing a Radwood in Detroit." And the Zagato had been delivered to Akron. She said, "Can Zoe and I take the car to Radwood?" So before I ever even sat in the car, my kids put 1,000 miles on it. Won Radiston show at Radwood, Detroit. Brought it back. They had 2 giant dogs sitting in the back, the whole thing. And they were just so pumped. 2 years ago, Amelia Island had a class for 80s, 90s Japanese performance cars. So my same daughter and her husband drove it from Cleveland to Amelia Island in the worst weather possible. Went down, showed it at Radwood on Saturday, showed it on the Concours on Sunday. Won a class prize in the Concours. And drove it back the next day. So put 2,500 miles on it, and we're just totally pumped and had a great time with it. So that's, that's what I love about Radwood.
Yeah.
I think Japanese cars are really having a moment at the minute. I mean, you look at this year, I think both the Quail and Laguna Seca will be featuring Japanese cars as specific categories. Only last week, Cars and Bids sold what was pretty much a standard STI for over $100,000.
Right.
So they seem to be coming into their own right now.
It's been a slow process. We thought when the book was released, we thought that would kind of pump things. What we've noticed is a lot of the historic cars, the cars of the 60s or so, again, the Italian, either coach built or Italian designed cars, low production cars, don't have the enthusiasm that the Skyline GTRs and things like that have. So I don't know if the Subaru, the STIs and things like that, those cars are great to do that. I don't know some of the vintage cars will ever catch on because they were never sold here. Plus the generation that's into the Japanese cars now hasn't been educated enough on the older stuff.
It seems like movies and motorsport seem to be two things that really help put Japanese cars on the map. You know, you look at Fast and Furious, and that was a big catalyst for various Skylines. Or you look at, Colin McRae driving a Subaru Impreza and, winning a world championship. And that sort of stuff, I know that there were Datsuns raced earlier than that, but that sort of stuff seems to really help put those cars on the map.
Yeah. Well, John Morton, who raced for Pete Brock, just got inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame. And he was famous. He raced everything, but he's famous for racing the Datsuns, in SCCA.
Yeah.
And Pete Brock's going to be the Grand Marshal for Laguna Seca.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Perfect
fantastic.
timing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
That
have
was just announced.
I have a car called a Hino Contessa, and very few people know this, but Pete Brock formed BRE with Hinos. The first 2 years of BRE race cars were Hino Contessas. Hino was thinking about coming to the U.S. market. Hino was going to come to the U.S. market, and they wanted to set kind of level of expectation. Win on Sunday, sell on Monday, kind of thing. And just as they were getting ready, I was with a car designed by Giovanni Michelotti, and just as they were getting ready to come into the U.S. market, Toyota bought Hino, and decided, well, they didn't need a car competing with their Corona, so they stopped automotive production. So Hino, even today, is Toyota's medium duty truck line. But
Wow.
they got pulled. The whole thing got pulled out from Pete, and Toyota came to him. It's kind of an interesting story. It's in the book, by the way, with some previously unpublished pictures that Pete provided for us. Toyota came to him and said, "Listen, we know that we pulled the rug out from under you. We're going to give you the 2000 GT race program. We're going to send these 2000 GTs. You're going to get the 2000 GT race program." He said, "Great, that's fair." 6 months later, no 2000 GTs. And one of his guys shows up at the shop and says, "Hey, I was just at Shelby's place down the road. He's got the 2000 GT race cars." And Shelby found out that they were going to give the program to Pete Brock. He went to Japan. He was a Toyota dealer and the West Coast Goodyear distributor. He went to Japan, talked to Mr. Toyota specifically and said, "Hey, you owe this to me." Toyota switched it to Shelby, never told Pete Brock anything. And that's how Pete ended up racing Datsuns.
With the Datsuns. And he was successful. Didn't Bondurant race some of those for a while?
Yeah. So he was, Bondurant was the East Coast guy. And Pete was West Coast.
Do you have a favorite Japanese car of all time?
Yeah, I do. My Mazda Cosmo, only because, and it's kind of a funky car. It's painted the wrong color. It's got slot mags on it. It's got some rust bubbling here and there. But so it's not the greatest Mazda Cosmo in the world, but I say it's the most driven one. Bought it, had it imported from Japan to Greece. Drove it in Greece as my only car for a couple of years, then had it sent here, and it's just such a special car to drive. And I don't know if they're all that way, but that particular one is probably my favorite one to drive.
So for those who don't know this car, it's a rotary car. It's a sports car. Back in the day, it would have competed with what?
It was Mazda's Halo car, and it was their first production rotary car. So it was priced up there with close to like E-Type Jaguars and things like that.
Really?
Yeah, really expensive. Didn't sell much, but it was a handmade car. They made five a day for 5 years. They made one a day for 5 days a week for 5 years. So it was a pretty special car. And the Cosmo name has kind of stayed within Mazda off and on. Last fall, I bought the last Cosmo, which is called the Unos Cosmo. Triple rotor, twin sequential turbochargers. So that was like their last kind of Halo car.
It sounds like a superhero.
Yeah, right? And it does look a little bit like a Buick Reatta. You know, it's kind of that generation.
That's a great callback.
In fact, I'll probably take that to the next Radwood.
Right? I always imagined that original Cosmo like just driving like very fluidly, like it just I don't know, just would dance. But that's maybe that's me seeing it and you know interpreting that as how it would drive. Which
Yeah, you know what?
great,
A friend of mine who drove it, who's a designer and a real enthusiast, he says it's like driving a very, very smooth Lotus, which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, sounds kind of like perfection, you know. So you have this vast, like, you know, breadth of knowledge with rare and obscure cars. And is there anything out there that you think is functionally extinct in 2026?
Extinct,
I've heard stories. There are no more. Like I've heard stories of some of the British cars, like the British Leyland cars and things, like they just didn't last, and there are none registered. Do you know of anything that's like the passenger pigeon of cars?
Yeah, no, they're out there. Even if you don't know, you know,
They're all out there. Yeah,
I've got a few cars that are like the only known surviving example, but that doesn't mean there aren't more out there. It's the only one that's like registered somewhere. No, there's so much stuff. I mean, we've sold the United States alone, you know, for years we're selling 12, 15, 16 million cars, you know, so there's so much stuff out there. Absolutely so much stuff out there.
Yeah. But now I'm curious, Myron, what do you have that may or may not be the only examples extant?
You know, a few things like that. One I recently sold called the Hoffman X8, which is really kind of a car that was built in 1935 under all kinds of veiled secrecy, mid-engine X configuration, 8-cylinder, kind of all kinds of international connections. I just sold that to a friend. I've got a car called the Paxton Phoenix. You've heard of Paxton Superchargers. They made one car. Car was made in Los Angeles, actually, where Paxton Products used to be based in El Segundo in the early 50s.
Love it.
Run Trek magazine cover car in 57. That's one of one. Still has less than 1,000 miles on it. It's been displayed at the Peterson before.
We should ask our fourth member of the group what it was like new.
Right.
Michael Latasso's from El
That's
Segundo.
right.
So
Right.
we can ask him what it was like when it rolled off the factory floor.
That's so funny.
So things like that. I probably have a few cars like that.
Yeah, it's so wild. What do you daily drive, Myron? I mean, you said you're not against new stuff, but what do you daily?
Today I'm driving in the snow a 1991 Infiniti M30 convertible. That
Love that.
during the height of
in
COVID.
contrast.
During the height of COVID, I bought in Los Angeles. Matt Farah picked it up for me, did some service on it, and we flew out and drove Route 66 home.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Got accosted in Eric, Oklahoma, for voting for Joe Biden, just because our car had California tags in it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was. So I bought that with the idea of driving it home and flipping it, but it's just such a really good, just everyday kind of beater car, and you can put the top down when you want to put it down too. I only drive old cars. That's probably one of my newer cars. My wife has a modern Subaru Outback. That's kind of it.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Well, you're in the right place because I'm finishing up some time with a Forester Wilderness, and Ryan had one as well recently.
Yeah. I referred to it as a squonk in an article I wrote. Now I'm regretting it. I don't know if you ever listened to Steely Dan, but there's a line about a squonk, which is a mythical forest creature in Pennsylvania, which is kind of homely and ungainly, and I'm afraid I may never get another Subaru press car again, Myron, but I got to speak the truth.
Well, listen, Subaru has made a fortune out of not talking about their cars in their ads. So I think there might be a real opportunity there for
that's a good
so
point.
funny.
Yeah, it's about the experiences you'll have, right? Not the car itself. And,
safety, dogs and kids, right? You've got Mazda, which I think makes like the greatest Japanese cars, but can't market themselves out of a wet paper bag. So it's the total opposite.
Yeah, I am loving the Forester, and I'm very sorry to see it go, but it's been really fun.
Yeah. Well, Lindsay took this thing to Dirtfish, the off-road school up in the Pacific
no kidding.
Northwest, and you should see the videos. I mean, she got air and everything.
Well, and it was heavy snow, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we had between 1 foot and 2 feet of snow the day before we did. It was a women's off-road event through Avance, and we did the off-road course at Dirtfish, and the car just chewed it up. It was so much fun. And last year I went and it was muddy because it had been pouring rain. This year we had snow and like double the water we had last year. The water was really deep, but put the car through its paces and it performed beautifully and we were comfortable the whole time. And I can't wait to go do it again.
That's awesome. Just put on your calendar, line up a Subaru press car for this time of year every year, and you're good.
That's right.
2 years in a row, so I feel like I'm off to a good start.
I think Subaru already know.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, it's coming up that time again, isn't it?
Well, Lindsay's going to be calling us next week.
That women's off-road day's been booked. Oh, boy.
But they're sort of a paragon of like car as appliance in the very best way, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And they've got some old school bits, I mean, the ones that are worth keeping, and then, they've got some new, bits that are there for a reason as well. But, we talk about, cars as appliance and this kind of thing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. We also play this little game on the show, like the best year for a certain mark, right? And I will go to my grave saying 1990 was peak Honda and peak Nissan. Right, you go into a Honda or a Nissan dealership in 1990. Now, granted, I was born in '75, so I was 15. This is when I was really starting to pay attention to cars. But you go to a Nissan dealership, you get a 300ZX, a 240SX, the four-door sports car, the Maxima, the hard body truck, the Pathfinder. Honda was very similar. They had their brand new Accord, right, the Prelude. So, when was peak JDM for you, Myron Vernis?
Whoa. I think right around that time, I mean, early 90s was like super stuff. I mean, Nissan was just kind of wrapping up the R32s. They had the Z32, there's early 70s, tough to beat. I mean, the 2000 GT was still, 2000 GT was early 70s. But that's kind of super great time.
Well, I feel vindicated.
Challenge Ryan on this, to be honest, because I think peak Honda is NSX, so you're a few, maybe 4 years too early, Ryan, on that one. And peak Subaru is like mid 2000s.
So, can you explain why that's peak Subaru for you?
Yeah, like you look when the 22B came out, right? There was the rally car of choice and the road version, and so for me that was why it was peak. But Myron's the expert here. What do you think?
Right.
Yeah. No. I listen. It depends on the car. Like Mark, my friend, my co-author, has got a 22B, and he absolutely raves about it. But I'll tell you that he thinks he would rather drive. He's got a Pulsar GTIR Nismo edition, which is every bit as good, but for a fraction of the cost, and had nowhere near the success in the rally circuit than the Subaru had. So you can pick out cars, I think, from any era. Even like when cars were like really, really bad, there are always some standouts in certain years. So you learn to appreciate those things.
Yeah. Well, talking about NSXs, I think we can all remember when you could get an NSX for 25 or 30 grand, a pretty decent one. Those days are obviously far behind us, and I know that this is not a hobby about making investments or money, or it's about the joy of the drive and all this. But Myron, from where you sit, what should we all be buying these days?
I've never bought a car for investment, although my wife won't listen to this, so I've lied to her about that down the road. It's like
your secret is safe.
It's like the Infinity I'm driving 6 years later. That was going to be a quick flip.
Unless she goes on vacation to Peru, and then you're in trouble.
But we've been to Peru a couple times.
My own were huge there. I don't know if you know this. We were number one for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Go figure.
believe it.
We've since
Yeah.
dropped to 14 since we, gave them a shout out. So, I don't know how that works, but
They're like, we didn't want anyone to know. Stop that.
Well, I
Guilty
yeah,
pleasure.
yeah.
Right.
for the last 3 months, you're probably #1 in Crete too, because I listened to all your stuff while I was there.
Oh, fantastic.
thank you.
That's fantastic.
That explains the bump in Greece. We
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes,
Yeah, you get the bump in Greece. Absolutely. Yeah. So
love it.
there's.
So,
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, I still think NSXs are a good buy. If you look at the enjoyment per dollar value, the things, if they're treated halfway decently, are Honda bulletproof. I think I can't. I've never tried to judge a car based on monetary value, because the enjoyment value is the most important aspect of it for me. So, listen, there's some cars really expensive that people can't afford. The cars I can't afford. The cars that I'd like that I can't afford. But I could still say they're good values if you can afford them and enjoy them. I mean, you look at, Doug DeMuro and his Carrera GT, right? I mean, it's an expensive car, but he's driving the heck out of it and he enjoys it. And that's kind of what it's all about. And I think the great thing is with cars, if you're into cars, you can find a car in any price range that you can maximize your enjoyment for the budget you have to spend. You don't have to spend 10 figures. Five figures to get a great car that you can enjoy. Again, this Infiniti, I drove it cross country, and I paid like $5,000 for it. I mean, it's crazy.
The enjoyment is inverse sometimes to the amount you have to put into it. But I think you're hitting on something that we hear from a lot of collectors, especially those, I think, with bigger collections, is they say, you say like, well, what's the theme of your collection? And they say, I buy what I like. And I think if you're in the car hobby to enjoy them, and that drives you, pardon the pun, then you do end up maximizing your own enjoyment.
Right. I mean, that's really what it's all about, is getting the enjoyment of, whether it's driving it or showing it off or tinkering with it or, cleaning it, there are all kinds of things that can bring you joy out of this hobby.
Myron, is there anything in your collection that is objectively terrible to drive?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I'll say currently.
Yeah.
I bought a Subaru, and I'm not down on Subarus, but I bought a Subaru, a 1974 Subaru GL that was customized back in it's got big Continental spare, and it's got big grill, Lincoln grill with Cadillac headlights and stuff on it. It's a front wheel drive. The roof's been cut off on it, and it's a horrible car to drive. Absolutely horrible car to drive.
But one could argue that the terrible driving experience is down to the modifications and not the fault of Subaru, perhaps.
No. If they hadn't added like 200 pounds of Bondo and stuff and spare tires and stuff, it was probably a fine little car back in its day.
Yeah, the Lincoln. You said a Lincoln grill, right? That alone would double the weight of the car. It sounds like.
Yeah. Probably the worst car. Probably the worst car I ever had, and I had two of them.
Oh, really?
I posted a picture on Instagram today because it came up in my history. A car called Alita Caballero, which was made in Post Falls, Idaho. It was it was back in the old days of Jalopnik. One came up, and I bought it on eBay, and I got kind of famous on Jalopnik for buying it. And I kind of named it as the finest and most beautiful car ever built in Post Falls, Idaho. And there's this guy he'd gotten really rich, and he invented this machine that fed chickens, and he wanted to set up a car business so his kids could have a business to go into. So he struck a deal with GM, and he was buying stripped out brand new Chevettes, and he was adding a body of his own design. Okay, so this is a chicken farmer out of Post Falls, Idaho, had designed this body and sculpted it out of Bondo and fiberglass and stuff, put it on there. And they made 97 of them. And the only thing worse than the way they looked was the way they drove. I mean, just really, really horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, that one definitely wins for best story, I think.
Yeah.
What is it about?
Nope.
What is it about cars and dreamers and all this, right? I mean, it just sort of seems every once in a while you just get one of these perfect storms like that.
Yeah, I think. Listen, we're seeing it now with electric cars. I think we saw it
Yeah.
around the world maybe about 100, 120 years ago, the turn of the 20th century, when people were, there were the United States at one point. Well, over the course of the 20th century, had over 2,200 manufacturers. People who tried to build cars. And I think a similar thing has happened. We've seen it recently with electric cars. A lot of these companies have gone into the electric car business. I see an opportunity either to build a better mousetrap or to get famous doing it,
Yep.
or just to flat rip people off. I mean, and all those are real reasons to start one of these car companies. You take a thing like a Fisker Ocean, and you could say any one of the above could be applied to this car. It's a beautiful little car. I mean, it's a total piece of trash, and I think an argument could be made that people knew all along that it was a piece of trash, but people walked out of there with cash. So I think the allure is there. I mean, a car is a flashy thing, still something, an object of desire.
Yep. That's it. And poor Henrik Fisker can't catch a break with his cars, can he? I mean, you go back,
I think he's done okay. He's done all right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He might be the most resilient man in automotive. Yeah.
That's a better way to better way to put it.
Yeah. And listen, you got to give him credit. And he designs beautiful cars. He really does design beautiful cars.
Yeah.
Myron, you mentioned Instagram, and I think you are definitely noted for being as active on Instagram as you are. And you mentioned a lot of your car friends are younger generations than you. You've been in the hobby before social media came along. How have you seen it change your experience of the car world?
Yeah, I stay involved again because of most of my closest car friends are younger people, and they're involved, in different forms of social media. So I do that to kind of help them along and stay in contact with them and just kind of stay relevant with them. So that's the beauty of it. I have a lot of friends my generation, and I'm a boomer. I'm a proud boomer. I can't deny when I was born. That just refuse to kind of get involved. And I think they feed my life. And if I can help them along too, that's really the motivation for me to stay in there. And listen, and I see some of these influencers and stuff that have made a lot of money in it. Gosh, I wish I never could figure out how to make money in the car business, when I was younger. So, I'm not going to try to start now. Right now, I just do it for, it's a symbiotic relationship.
And if people want to follow you, you're Junkman 356, is that right?
I am, yeah. On Instagram, and then either that or my name, like on Blue Sky or Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah. You have a Reliant Robin?
I have a Mavea Robin, which was so okay. So now you mentioned the worst car to drive. Okay, here's another one. This is the
Myron would like to change his answer.
Yeah, this is the scintillating combination of British engineering and Greek manufacturing.
Oh wow, that's a combo.
Made under
a 1-2 punch. Zing zing.
Reliant Robins made under license in Greece in the mid 70s. I mean, there's certain things Greeks shouldn't be doing, and one of them is building cars.
It's amazing.
There was a famous Top Gear episode from the newer Top Gears where two of the hosts took them and had a race, and I think they managed to tip them both over.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny story about three-wheeled cars. I have another three-wheeled car made in Van Nuys, California, called a Davis. The museum has one, 1948 Davis. And we had a group of Davises at Amelia Island a few years ago, and 16 were made. There are 15 left. Almost all of them have four-cylinder engines. Mine has a Nash 6, and
Really?
Wayne Carini has one with a small flathead Ford in it. So for years we argued about who had the fastest Davis in the world. So when they asked me to take the car, I said, I'll bring it down if Wayne and I can have a drag race and finally determine who has the world's fastest Davis. So we were able to close one of the runways at the Amelia Island Airport for 2 hours for the princely sum of 2 cases of beer. And we drag raced Davises. And happy to say I'm the proud owner of the world's fastest Davis.
Wow.
Yes.
Wayne
yes.
Carini, you're listening.
We have the champion on our show, guys.
Well, the funny thing is, we were at Pebble Beach that year. He taps me on the shoulder. He says, "Hey, I realized there was something wrong with the ignition. I'm ready for a rematch." I mean, he took it seriously.
Oh, he's definitely a race car driver.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, Myron, I think it's fair to say you have some of the coolest cars in the world, and I think you have some of the coolest friends as well. And we're really honored to have you join us tonight. I know we could talk for 2 more hours, but love to have you back sometime if you're up for it. And everyone listening needs to follow Myron on Instagram because it truly is one of the best accounts out there, and it's Junkman356. So, Myron, can't thank you enough. It's been a real pleasure. You're a fascinating guy with some fascinating cars. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.
It's been my pleasure and an honor to join you. I love your show and wish you continued success.
Thanks so much.
Well, we appreciate the support so much, and it's been really fun chatting with you and hearing about your super unique collection.
Super.
Well, Myron, thank you again. This is That Car Show. And until next time.
Remember, always be driving, and we'll see you next week.